Welcome to the Shoot It Straight podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our show.
Episode 40.
Wow.
Q&A.
It's a big number.
It's a good round number.
But it's really not that big. Like, especially if you're 40 years old, it's not that old.
No, it's not. But we've been doing a weekly podcast for 40 weeks, which is actually pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome. It's commitment.
There's been a stat floating around about that, that said, I guess after the first 2 podcasts or something like that, like 95% of people drop out.
2?
Yeah, so basically, like, you're in the top 2% of podcasters, or even it might have even been 1% if you make it past like a couple episodes.
That's like,
Which, like, I don't count, but like then again, it's like I don't count those people those people don't even count as the denominator of people podcasting. You know, It's not like really a fair stat, but I guess the point is like keep going.
right.
Like keep going, and 40 is nothing compared to like some people, but 40, doing 40 weeks, you and I started this do we publish our podcast in March? I know we started recording in February, so I think we might have even gotten some, because technically a year would be 52 weeks. So we have 12 more weeks left. So yeah, we have a whole nother December, January, February.
We'll get there.
Anyway, episode 40 just sounds kind of cool and badass. So thank you all for being here for today's Q&A episode, which we've been doing now on like a monthly cadence.
I think they're good. I think the people like them.
They are good, and they come from the people.
They do come from the people.
We haven't really done too many formal asks about questions, but they're coming to your inbox or our email or our Facebook group or what have you. Like
daily.
And a lot of times things come up too, like in themes, just depending on the time of year. Or somebody asks one question, and then of course that opens up the doors to everyone else kind of having the same question, which happens, which is like encouraging to people that maybe have a question to just always ask it, because I feel like it comes out. Everyone has the same question, or sometimes we just need to hear the answer a few more dozens of times.
Well, sometimes you just need to hear the answer told differently. Right? Like, that's what I learned as being a trainer for all these years is I can literally tell someone how to do a deadlift, and I could tell someone else the exact same way how to do it, but they would just like be totally mind blown, have no idea what I'm saying. I could be speaking a different language, but then I'll say it differently to that person again, and I'll try a different way, say it differently, and then they get it, and then the next person could be totally different again. And it's so you should never get old hearing good, useful information told differently, possibly.
No, and we've talked about this before, but like it can feel weird when you're just kind of, it's us and we're like, fuck, we keep talking about this, but it's like there's always new ears listening, there's always new people, there's always people that haven't heard us talk about a certain topic. So on our end, it can feel like, oh my gosh, we've been talking about this for 15 years in this world, in this profession. Yeah. But really, it's like, it's fresh for a lot of people all the time.
And I have to remember that when I'm responding to people in DMs, is that it's the first time they've asked me this question, but I've been asked this question 100 times. So it's like, I always gotta like take a breath, and it's like, okay, like, it's not their fault that I've been asked this question 100 times. Like, they need to know the answer too. No. And I always try to encourage our athletes to like use our forums and write the questions in public. I know people are shy and they just want to ask their question privately, and that's perfectly fine. But I think there's something to be learned if you ask a question in public. Other people can chime in. It can encourage conversations, and more ideas can get thrown around. And maybe I'll learn something new. Like, even though like I could be the expert in the room and people are asking me, but someone else could say something and I could be like, hey, that makes sense too, and I've never thought of something that way. So it's just a learning experience for all of us.
Well, yeah, that's why I said, for people that are like sitting here like, I had that question too. Most people do have the same question, so just ask it.
There's not that many questions. Well,
there's not.
There are, but
no, really. But
in our field, there's a lot of the same ones.
Totally, there's a lot of the same ones, or they all overlap. So I mean, we'll hop right to it.
Oh, cool. Let's jump right in.
We're gonna jump right in because I'm excited for these questions today. So we've got 4 today.
Yeah, and I wrote them up there in sequence, so it's your question, my question, your question, my question.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna do it like that. All right. So do you want to ask me the question?
I do want to ask you the question, and this could be told. This could be asked a million different ways. This is just how I broke it down to the most simple way I could think. So I struggle gaining muscle. What do I do? Like literally just like that. Like
I love it.
People could say I'm a hard gainer. I've been trying for years. I don't gain any weight, this and that. So that's where this came from. So someone's struggling to gain muscle mass. What do they do?
Okay, cool. Love this question. Yes, we've tackled this from different angles and different ways of it being asked. But of course, gaining muscle, for one, just so people know, is a hard thing to do. Like, it is a very hard thing to do. So we've had people that have asked or that expect things to change in a couple weeks. And we've also had maybe females more heavily get scared of lifting weights because they're afraid they're just going to turn into the Hulk after a few weeks of like lifting weights. And like, there is nothing more further from the truth on how hard it is to like put on muscle mass. Now, ideally, we want to be following a strength training program. That is, I would say, a requirement. Our body needs to be receiving some sort of muscle building signal. And in order for our muscles to break down, in order to rebuild from the work that you've done in the gym, lifting weights, there needs to be some sort of stimulus, and that is resistance training. So that is important. That's what we do in our programming. It's, it doesn't have to be super sexy though. Like, truly, if you're following a progressive overload program, you're doing the right things. That being said, I also work with a lot of athletes, guys and girls, frankly, that they're doing the things, they're in the gym, and they're like, I don't look like I work out. I'm not seeing the results in the gym. And this is where it really comes down to nutrition and what you're putting in your body. So I brought up the strength training thing first and the muscle breakdown part first, because that is what's happening when we're working out. We are putting a stimulus on our body. We are taxing our muscles, and typically after the fact, or when we're going for our, recovery day the next day, that's when the rebuild process happens. However, if we're not consuming enough protein and enough calories, we'll get to both of those in a second, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Your body is going to do the best that it can with what it's got, and it's going to recover. And our body is so smart and can adapt to so many. That's why there's so many different types of diets that work for so many different types of people. All of that stuff has validity and what have you. But at the end of the day, in order to be gaining size and putting on some weight, we need to be eating in a calorie surplus, at least at maintenance, to build muscle. So
how much above maintenance do you think?
Yeah, so let's go into that. So let's talk about maintenance first. Maintenance can work for a lot of people who haven't tracked before, because a lot of people undereat protein. And so I've had results with clients that their body composition changes after like 6 months. Now, again, it doesn't take 6 months, but a solid 6 to 12 months, if you're really like following your protein and you're hitting your protein, which a gram of protein per pound of body weight is more than enough for most people, your body composition can change because of what we just kind of said. It's like your body is now having the amino acids necessary to rebuild muscle. Mm-hmm. So you're starting to actually see the effects. And I know that like blows people's minds, and it's a slower process for sure, but protein also like is a little bit harder for the body to digest. And so like there is a thermogenetic effect of food. It's small, but like you burn a little bit more calories eating protein foods. Like that's why eating whole foods is so important. Like it does cost way more calories for your body to process things like, whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and whole food protein. Like it's work.
Right.
As opposed to things that are like truly like thinking like melty ice cream and peanut butter. Like there are studies that show like the difference between consuming actual peanuts and peanut butter, like the calorie difference is like pretty substantial. I'm not going to quote it, but there's a study out there and it's pretty kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And so our body like 100% can change by being in maintenance, but also just changing our macro profile. And that's why I talk a lot about maintenance and talk a lot about macros, because like it can have a really positive effect.
Right.
Now, again, there's always that person wanting to take it to the next level. This is also the same person maybe that saw some gains in the first couple months of strength training, but then you kind of taper off because newbie gains are real. When you start something new and you haven't done any, strength training for a long time, you're going to have some results in the beginning, but then you need to start leveling up. And so that's where I strongly encourage people to do like a dedicated, bulk phase. And maybe we don't like the word bulk, and maybe we like surplus or gain phase or whatever you want to call it. Typically, it doesn't take that much to start. I always recommend people, of course, start like conservatively, right? So 250 extra calories, 10 to 15% surplus to start where you're at. So again, find your maintenance. If you're at 2,500, add 250 to that first and be consistent with that for a couple of weeks. A lot of people, if they haven't done a gain phase, they might feel those results pretty quickly. You'll feel the strength in the gym, in the beginning, very, very fast. Typically you have more energy. So your workouts are like a little bit more intense just because you're like kind of you're fueling the beast. Mm-hmm. What also though can happen, especially for people that are trained or hard gainers, this is a real life thing. There are people that there's a window, like there is a big window for people and what their maintenance calories are. And there's a big window for people on how many calories they need to reduce to cut. And it's the same thing going in the other direction to go in a surplus. So if after a couple of weeks you've done your extra 10%, you're not seeing anything, you might be feeling the benefits, you might be feeling more energy and yada, yada, yada. But what can happen sometimes is because of that extra energy that you're consuming and your body is like, oh, your metabolism is responding to that and matching that, you actually might end up increasing like your non-exercise activity or your exercise activity a little bit in the gym without like really knowing it. So sometimes, like, let's put that in like a math equation. Let's say you're adding 250 calories, but maybe you're also like burning another 150. So like your margin is like a lot smaller, even though you're increasing your food. So it just means you have to like keep going.
Right.
And some people need another 500, 700, 800 calories to start to really see like to get the needle to move. But it's a patience game and it's a consistency game. So a lot of times with people, again, going in both directions, if you're cutting and or gaining, people have to remember how important consistency is. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm working with a client right now. He's a perfect example of this. He's a golfer. He's like a 9-to-5er. And he's a hard gainer and he's like trying to, and he's feeling full and stuffed some days. So like, it's tough for him because he'll have a few days he'll string in a row of like eating more, but those are followed by like 3 days of like 18 to 1900, like eating less, not purposefully, but he's not consistently getting there. So if you're looking at the course of, over 2 weeks, he's not really in a surplus. He's kind of like breaking even.
Right.
So that's step one that I suggest for people is to really be honest with yourself, because if you're just kind of yo-yoing or dirty bulking or just shoving a cheeseburger down every once in a while and you're just not consistent with it, get your maintenance calories down first, get consistent with your protein, like make sure you're getting the basics down first, and then adjust your macros every couple of weeks. If 250 extra or 10% extra isn't working for you, if you're a 3,000, you went to 3,300, that's not working. Okay, add another like couple hundred calories, because 150 a day or 200 a day, that's 1,400 in the week. So like a couple hundred each and give yourself 2 full weeks of consistency before you're like making an adjustment. So again, like it's very real for people that have a lot of lean mass. Like again, if you're active, if you're golfing, if you're pretty lean, you're gonna probably need to ramp it up even more because your body is gonna match, like your metabolism is gonna go up.
Right, like that's what I'm doing right now. And we've been taking more walks. I've been playing golf. I've been practicing, and I think I've hit my workouts a little bit harder. And I'm up to, I think, 3,400 calories right now.
Yeah.
And I jumped on and I track my weight every single day. And over the last 2 weeks, I think I've gained 0.2 pounds.
Which I would call insignificant.
Right.
That's like
just
basically
nothing.
Water weight. Yeah.
Right.
When someone's like, I gained a pound in 2 weeks, I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
But that could be a toenail or,
yeah.
like
my tracker that I put it in there every day, it shows my trends. And then it's
right.
like,
It averages you out or
yeah,
whatever.
some days I weigh 170, some days I weigh 173. And then, like averages me out. And it's like, over the course of the last 2 weeks, I've gained like 0.2 or 0.3 pounds.
Yeah. So you need to eat more. And so again, like there's a couple other things for people to remember too. And this relates to maintenance, and this is important. If you weigh 150 pounds at the start of your whatever next gain phase or your cut phase, when you get to 160, 170, your metabolism will also increase because you weigh more. Mm-hmm. Your metabolism will be faster. Your body will demand more energy. So it's sort of an interesting thing that happens. So same thing when you cut. Like if I take a person that goes from 150 to 140, their maintenance, it could be close. It might be. It just, it depends. But it's likely to be probably a little bit less. So nobody's broken. It's just like if you're gonna be a bigger person in a bigger body, you're gonna need more calories. Typically, my tall people, they tend to like tall people way more, right? But they tend to like really need to eat food if they want to gain. And same thing, like they tend to be able to like diet a little easier. Just again, like not necessarily because they're tall, they have more mass, but like they burn more. They're in bigger bodies. So they can, they have to really push when they're trying to gain. And then again, like typically cutting can be a little bit easier for them, but not everybody. Everybody's really different. So that's why tracking macros can be really, really helpful. But at the end of the day, if you're not gaining weight, you're not in a surplus. If you're not broken.
It's not magic.
It's not magic. It takes time. And again, if someone who is seasoned, by the way, like, you can put on some size in a couple of years, whatever. But like once you're very trained and very conditioned and it's been a decade, 2 decades, it's putting on lean mass is work, like really, really fucking hard. And that's like beyond my scope of like, I mean, that's when you're just putting on, you should be happy with like putting on a couple pounds of lean mass in a year.
Wow.
When you're very trained. There is like a point where we kind of all reach like naturally, whatever. And then like, it does kind of taper off. Because muscle is very expensive tissue. Muscle is like something where we didn't evolve with thousands of calories at our disposal. Like, we didn't have peanut butter and Doritos and stuff to eat like back in the day to be able to consume 6,000 calories, right? Or whatever people need to eat now. So our body is like very well like aware of that. And, now that's why obesity is really a problem now, because like now we're in this phase of, we have a surplus of food but our body's really more adapted to like being able to hold on to fat.
Right.
And to conserve energy so that we can go a few days without eating.
Yeah.
So that's really like kind of what it comes down to. So hopefully that was helpful and answered like a lot of that type of question, but that's really that's what it comes down to. You got to be eating enough food and you have to be eating enough protein.
Yeah. I think what I've always struggled with is being patient.
Yes.
It's like, I want to see it happen, And
you do something for like 4 weeks, and then you're like,
let me add 500 more. Like, let's go.
And then you're like, I'm fat, and it's like, well, and by the way, that's something to bring up.
And that's what I do, and I'm a professional.
And we all do it too. But it's like, you are going to gain fat. P.S. I think that's important to recognize. By the way, I should have said that too. You will gain fat. It is impossible to not gain a little bit of fat. Mm-hmm. Again. Untrained individual is going to have like a different sort of curve in the beginning where you're going to see like your lean mass uptick pretty quickly and all that good stuff and shed body fat if you have a lot to lose or you're untrained. But when we want to put on size, this is where like it gets uncomfortable. And especially for women, like you're like, I feel puffy. And like at the end of the day, you're really not, but you feel it more on your body than anything. You're going to have more water weight because you're eating more. You have more shit in your stomach, literally. Like you have more carbs that you're eating. So you're going to hold on to more water. So like the scale will go up. That's the point. You have to kind of keep pushing through that. And that's why strength training alongside of it though is also required. We can't just kind of assume eating more and like chilling out is going to like turn us into like these lean, mean machines. Like you need to be putting the food to work.
Yeah. And and when it goes, and I've learned from experience is like when I get, impatient with it and I jack up my calories like crazy. And then, when you're talking about getting into like ranges for me and there's going to be people listening that are bigger than me. Because I'm not that big, I'm only 170. Like I'll jack it up to like 3,800 or something like that. And if you do that really fast, like you don't feel very good. Like you feel sluggish.
Yes.
Like you've got to do it in slow increments. Like so your body can learn how to like kind of manage all this food, I guess would be a right way to say it. Or kind of like just use it as energy instead of just feeling like, like maybe and I don't want to talk and say like, my blood sugar spikes or whatever it is like that happens that slows me down. But something does when I like consume too much food. You just literally feel slow. It's like my workouts went from feeling great at like 3,400 calories. And then if all of a sudden I ramp it up to 3,800 a couple days later, my workouts are not so great.
Totally. I mean, that's why I always incrementally again, cutting or bulking with my clients, I always go slow and people hate it. They do.
Oh, they hate it.
And I'm like, okay. But then like sometimes if people are really like impatient with me, I'm like, okay, minus 500 or plus 600. And then usually in a couple weeks, they're like, I'm full. Or they're like, fuck, I'm hungry, you know, immediately. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, glad we learned that lesson. Like, let's chill out. But yes, we should always like ease into it either direction, because that's the point. Like, you're allowing your body to adapt. And that's why there's so many more things like that go along with this other than just, oh, I'm following my macros. It's like, well, but if your digestion is shitty and then your sleep is off, like, and then you feel like hot garbage, like then none of this is all pointless no matter what we do.
Right.
It's way more than just like following the macros. That's why I pay attention to clients' biofeedback 100% of the time, because all of this stuff matters. Same thing with my client. I'm not going to just be like, okay, well, good luck, shove it down your throat, bro. Like, we got to get it in. It's like, all right, I literally backed him up a little bit. We went to like plus 250 and it was too much for him. So I was like, okay, we're just going to add in 150.
Yeah.
And like, now he's getting better, and he's getting better at like choosing foods that work for him, that have more fat content, because they have more calories it's all about, I know everyone wants to go everywhere so quickly, but like, you're going to end up spinning your wheels, stopping and starting for years and years and years, rather than just fucking doing it the right way the first time.
So. And I started adding in, because I was eating more food, so I'd start feel pretty full. So I would walk for like 10, or I'm like walking like after a meal now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, then I'm burning more calories.
Totally.
So
you do. Yeah. And it's like, you know, and again, it doesn't have to be.
It's not a ton, but it's like, it's happening.
Well, there is subconscious too. That's what I was saying. Like, sometimes we don't even realize it. People, when you add energy to your system, we fidget, we get up, we have more energy, we, start sweeping. People do. And so it happens, and they're like, what's going on? Same thing with when people cut. Take away calories and people get a little bit slow.
Right.
And then they're like, why isn't it working? And I'm doing 200 less calories. I'm like, well, how are we feeling? Are you sluggish? Are we sleeping less? So we're tired? Are we fatigued more quickly? And it's like, oh. And it's like, yeah, this is why like 1,200 calories, it's just why cutting harder probably won't work for you that long, because you start to feel like hot shit. And so you negate feeling good in your workouts. You don't walk around a lot. You have no energy. So you're sitting. So you're not going to burn more calories. Your body it knows.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, yeah, that ended up being like a pretty thorough discussion on all things macros. So
yeah, it was good.
No, that was
I learned some stuff.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you learned. Next up is for you.
Mm-hmm.
What makes golf fitness different from general population training?
Awesome. So I think this gets asked on the golf course more than anything, because like my bag says Cody Wescott Golf Fitness, and people are like, what the hell is golf fitness, right? And it's simply just to help you, a fitness program to make you better at the sport of golf. General population, for those out there, like I was a personal trainer, started training people a long time ago, but I've been a professional trainer for about 12 years. And when you start working with like the people you meet off the street, like no matter what their background is, we call them like general population. Typically they want to come in, they want to get stronger. A lot of people want to lose fat, and just, have more energy to play with their kids. Like, so they just have very like normal, like life goals, I guess you could say, right?
I mean, I don't think people come in and want to get stronger. People come in and they want to lose weight.
Well, I tell them they want to get stronger.
I know, but like let's just be honest. General population is 99% of the time, I want to lose weight.
Right. And then I convince them that they also want to get stronger.
Correct.
So that's how it always works.
Yes.
So yeah, they're just looking for a better quality of life. And what I would have told you probably when I first started doing golf fitness is I would have said one word. I would have said rotation. Yeah. They're like, oh, we're going to do all these rotational movements. And now that I've been doing it for years, I'm like, man, general population should actually do more rotation.
Yeah.
Because we rotate in our lives all the time. Like I get down and pick up my dog. I play with him. I roll around on the floor. You got kids. Like you reach in the back seat for something in your car. Like we rotate a lot. So I think that's not my answer anymore. Like my answer now is like, why would I want to do a golf fitness program? I'm like, well, you want to do a fitness program no matter what. Like every study you will ever read says that physical activity, resistance training is how you live a longer and healthier life. So period, you want to do a fitness program. And I would think that you can learn a lot from like watching a golfer train, a baseball player, a football player, like any of these kind of things. A general population should be doing a lot of that stuff. I will say we probably focus a little bit more on power development. Like, your typical person off the street probably doesn't really care how much power they have, although I think they should. nowadays. Like, you never know what you're going to encounter in your life, and it would be nice to have a little bit of explosiveness behind you. And it gets your brain firing too. So like, man, I'm really getting to the point where like I tell people there really isn't no like golf specific exercise that a general population person should not do.
Yeah.
At this point. Yeah, we definitely like really focus on like your rotary centers, like your hips and your thoracic spine, work a lot on the core and the pelvis and segmenting the spine and, you know, a few different nuanced things. Like, yeah, we get you in positions. Like, there are some movements that, you know, I would have a golfer do that like a general population person probably doesn't need, and we could like find them a different way to get some of the similar stimulus, like some of these interesting positions that you get a golfer in that is unique to the golf swing, like would not be as unique to someone in their daily activity, but could still be useful. It's just cool to learn how to move in new ways. So yeah, this question's funny now. Like, I just tell people, like, you want to be fit for life, period. I encourage you to train like an athlete because things in your normal life can require some athletic type movements. So why not, you know, and if you're a golfer, why not?
Yes.
Why not train to get better? Why not train to, you know, learn how to use your rotary center so that way you're not, you know, tweaking your low back as often.
Yes.
Why not, you know, train like an athlete that has good endurance so you can walk the course if you want, or get in and out of the cart 100 times. I mean, ironically enough, my guy I played with yesterday, he usually rides. He was my 4-ball partner, and we rode in a cart together just because it's 4-ball and it's easier. But I told him, like, yeah, normally I walk. And so this is our first time, like, playing, like, not in our 4-ball match. And he comes strolling up in his with his cart, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I had to dust the cobwebs off this thing. I knew you'd be walking today, so I wanted to bring it. And, you know, we're walking. He's like, you know, I kind of like this. I do like walking.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, yeah, like, even my step count on my watch, like, is not that different from, like, riding in the cart to walking. I think it's like a few thousand, which is a good chunk, but in the grand scheme of 16,000 steps, like a few thousand less is like not
but it's
crazy.
The word steps are work.
Yeah, steps are work.
You're
and
pushing your cart.
You're pushing the cart. Yeah. And I don't know, this thing might like pick up some extra steps as like gyrating in the golf cart. Who knows?
I think it might. And I also think when you push your cart and you have your watch on,
it rattles a little more.
No, I think it doesn't pick it up because it's like when you're shopping, like in a shopping cart, sometimes the watch doesn't pick that up because your arms aren't moving.
Interesting. But anyways,
that's nuanced.
So it's like, yeah, just like, yeah, I believe that we should train like athletes, and if I went back and if I'm ever in a position again where I'm training someone for general population that doesn't care about golf, they'll probably be doing some golf, what you would look on the outside looking in and be like, oh, that's a golf exercise. And I remember when I first started doing golf fitness, I was transitioning out of training people for general population. One of my clients, and she just didn't move that great, and I knew she kind of needed some of this stuff that I was learning, like training golfers, and I had her do it. She's like, "Oh, this is golf. I don't want to do this," and I was like, "It's good for you." Like, luckily, I had enough trust, like, till I got her to do it. But it's great for everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Did that really think? What's the difference? Like the difference, I guess. Yep. I want to say like there isn't a big difference at this point.
I love it. I think that explained it great.
I think it's the programming, right? Like how you put. Now it's different. I want to be specific. Like it's general population, like not a bodybuilder or not a CrossFitter. Like those are totally different goals, right? Like general population, you just want to be a better human. Golfers need that too. So. Well,
those are like working out sports too.
Right.
That's
it's a sport of the sport of exercise.
The sport of exercise is not what we're talking about here. And you know, I think the last thing that I would just add is like, you know, yes, certain movements might not be golf specific, but the program itself just should complement someone who also wants to go out and golf and just feel better. And that there are lots of programs out there, but they're certainly not necessarily ones where
it's optimal.
You're optimal, you're feeling good, you know, you're primed and ready to like go out and also play golf. We're not out here to beat people up. We're not out here to focus on one very specific thing. Like it's about being like, for lack of a better word, balanced.
Right.
Like just balanced, like just a well-rounded, you know, athlete.
Right. And there's seasons to golf training, right? Like we have our off season, we have our in season, we have, if you're playing tournaments, like it all needs to change according to that and how you're going to develop your speed and how you're going to use it and how you're going to get a baseline. Like, a lot of that stuff is different, but the movements themselves, I think should be pretty much the same.
Okay. Well, that was good. What's next?
This one, I'm like I think I made a post about this on Twitter,
really?
I believe, or X, whatever you want to call it. And it got some reaction. It got some people talking about it. So this came from me like noticing that people chug a shitload of water during their workouts. Like I've watched people at the water fountain like suck it down. They bring in those big gallons, and I've watched people drink a ton of water in their workouts and every day. So I want to ask you, Erika, how much water should we drink every day, and how much should we drink during our 1 hour workout?
So I've changed my viewpoint on this a lot over the years. Because I remember even like studying for our personal training cert, things like this were very like in there, at least ACE. I know you did NASM, but it, I don't even remember anymore what the fucking recommendations are, but obviously it's like, there's the whole like per pound of body weight thing and how many ounces. And so like a general rule of thumb for people that are like so in the dark about it, I like to tell people half your body weight in ounces of water every day is a good rule of thumb. If you weigh
pounds for our overseas users.
200 pounds, you're drinking 100 ounces. Okay. But like 100 ounces of water is like a lot of water.
It's a decent amount of water.
Like it's a lot of water, right? So I started, you start working with people. And again, like that was always like, it wasn't like macros where I'm like, count your, drink your gallon or all that gallon challenge.
How many reps of water drinking are you doing?
It's so crazy. And it's like, God bless, like everyone's trying to sell a water bottle. Like, here we go. That was like a few years ago when all that stuff went hardcore.
Right.
But you start working with people and it's like, then they get really into like, well, does sparkling water count as water? Does this count as tea water? And like they just get so in their head about like just picking apart. And like again, when you get experience as a coach, you just start to learn to be like, all right, people need less to think about, truly. Like they don't need to be thinking about. It's already tough, like getting people to track their food. I get that that's challenging, and like getting people consistent with workouts. Like we're all about low hanging fruit, and it's just like, what is the simplest way for me to explain to somebody like what they need to be drinking? Well, for one, like drink when you're thirsty. Like I know that sounds so like, but it's like, okay, drink when we're thirsty. Just like we should be listening to hunger cues and things like that. Like, thirst cues are also very real. But like a general rule of thumb that I like to tell people now that like is pretty foolproof is like, look at your pee color. Look at your pee color. Everybody is different. Everyone has a different types of water that they drink. Back to like the whole point of like, there's sparkling waters and there's flavored waters now. And there's coconut waters. There's all these like fucking things out there that are like all types of water basically. And so as long as you're peeing light yellow, you're in a really good spot because you can drink too much water and you can of course not drink enough. Mm-hmm. If your urine is dark, if it's yellow or brown, like that's bad. You are dehydrated. You shouldn't get to that point. Like that sucks. Drink some water. If your pee is pretty clear, you're drinking way too much water. You are peeing it out. And you can be overhydrated. I mean, people definitely die from that.
Yeah, I've heard of frat boys that like they do like water hazing and they die.
Yeah, like it's really dangerous. Yeah. Your body is trying to always maintain homeostasis. And so just like you can underconsume water, we think of being dehydrated and parched and, getting heat flashes and all that stuff. The same thing can happen if you drink too much. So a lot of times, like, yeah, like sometimes like with these gallon challenge things, or we have like 140-pound women that are drinking 2 jugs of water in their workout. I'm like, God damn it, like, are you peeing every 3 minutes? Like, that's crazy and ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I like to tell people to pay the attention to their urine color is really what I say, like just in general. I'll get to workouts in a second, but like, because again, every day is different. Maybe we're sweating more than one day or another. Maybe we were outside more than one day or the other. Maybe we're in a really dry climate that actually can be very dehydrating too. Maybe your workout just wasn't as sweaty. There's so many different types of workouts, right? Are we running for 3 hours or are we lifting weights for 45 minutes? Like those are very different things. So it's like, can I tell that one person, oh yeah, you should be drinking an extra 16 ounces every time you work out? Like none of that stuff really makes sense because there's so much context. But if I'm getting someone to just make sure that they're hydrated enough, pay attention to like what color your pee is throughout the day and adjust accordingly.
Right.
In general, I like to encourage people to be hydrated enough to get through a workout without having to chug. So if we're talking about workouts, you generally should be able to hit like a lift session with, an extra 16-ounce water bottle, this is when I would encourage somebody if they are taking an electrolyte, maybe you're taking your electrolyte before or during your workout, and you're able to like sip on your water bottle. 16 to 20 ounces should be more than enough. Wets your whistle, it cools us off, like whatever. But we should generally be hydrated enough really to not necessarily need it.
Right.
Does that make sense? Now, for an endurance athlete, this is a completely different like ball game where like nutrition and hydration is almost like a timing thing. Like we're talking like salt tabs and like when do we need all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to really get into
Pickle
a ton
juice.
of that. Yes, we definitely need to be drinking electrolytes for endurance training. I generally think that like anything 75 minutes or above, we should be prepared with, 24 ounces of water and 24 ounces of electrolyte. So you have a water drink and you have an electrolyte drink, and you're basically just sipping both of those during your endurance training, right? Because if you're on a bike, you can just be sipping your shit. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm not going to sit here and get into like the ins and outs of like going out, doing outdoor like road biking and road racing. But 75 minutes plus, you're able to drink a little bit more water. You're adding an electrolyte. You're going to need a lot more demands. But really, at the end of the day, like people can vary on like how much actual water that they're drinking, because water is black coffee. That counts towards your water. I know
it's not
like,
negative. People think like,
everyone's it's dehydrating.
If I drink 8 ounces of coffee, I need 16 ounces of water to make up for it.
You don't. You actually don't. It's literally made of water. Now that doesn't count if you're like drinking like a whatever smoothie frappuccino-y thing that happens to have a shot of espresso in it and also full of chocolate and like whipped cream. Like that's not water.
Yeah.
I mean, there's water in it, but if we're hydrated, we're peeing clear, we do not need to be, overdoing it on the water thing. We just don't. I think that people should also be comfortable. We don't need to be getting up and peeing multiple times in the middle of the night. I generally say that like once a night is okay. Some people work to like really want to sleep through the night, or like they don't want to get up and pee. So it's like, all right, we should be cutting water off 2 hours before bedtime, which also means like no nighttime teas. And like I know people like drink some of that stuff at night. And so if you're somebody who gets up and needs to pee a lot and that's bothersome, try drinking less. Front load your day. For people that work out later in the day, that can be tough. That's tough for people with nutrition too. Like the people that work out at 6 or 7 and then they're like, I can't sleep. And it's like, I know, because then you eat and you drink and you kind of have to like work around all of that. But yeah, I mean, we in the gym and the types of workouts that we're doing, lift heavy, swing fast. I mean, so long as you're like putting in an extra 16 to 20 ounces of water for a workout, that's really all that you need. But we've both had days too where you definitely expend more, sweat on the golf course or just walking outside during the summer.
Oh, yeah.
I think a reminder now is that while it's not hot out right now like it is in the summertime, actually the wintertime though is very dry and dehydrating too in a different kind of way. Like our skin is dry. And so it is actually just as important to like make sure that we're drinking enough water this time of year. People think like that they just don't need it as much. So, definitely keep drinking your water, but just pay attention to your urine color.
Yeah. I think when I see people in the gym carry their giant water bottle with them everywhere, and sometimes I'll see them drink like almost the whole damn thing. It's like, you kind of like end up being next to that person a few different times throughout the gym session. I'm like, damn, that dude literally put down like 40 ounces of water since he's been here. And I just find that to be uncomfortable. Kind of gets in the way of your workout. Like you just got too much like water in your belly. Like it's just uncomfortable. You have to go to the bathroom. And I think it becomes a habit for people. Like you finish your set, get on your phone, you scroll through Instagram, you take a bunch of big sips of your water.
Yeah.
Like that you may not really need it. You might not, probably not even thirsty. Like I've really started paying attention to this, and I do train a lot better if I don't sit there and chug my water just, mindlessly. So I've been putting it over in the cubby hole next to my phone. That way I'm not like encouraged to like mess with around my phone and drink water and all this kind of stuff. And like I'll fill up my water here at the house, and I'm still drinking it when we get back.
Yeah.
So like I don't even finish like 20 ounces and I don't think I need it. So yeah, I think it just becomes a habit for people to just mindlessly consume like 40 ounces of water during a workout to like maybe, I don't think they're like purposely trying to like stall and not get into their next set, but I think it happens.
I love that you brought that up. It can totally be a crutch. Like the people before the CrossFit workout starts, so they have to go pee or whatever. Like you kind of get like your nervous little twitch or whatever. I think that's totally valid. And we were just talking about the one guy that we've seen, because I think he asked me where the water fountain was, and ever since then, between every set, I saw this guy go back to go use the water fountain.
Right.
When you're working with a trainer and you're like, fuck, I need to go take a break. It's like the kids in the gym class that used to do that shit too.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Like, that's a good way of thinking about it from the mindset side of things, of like, am I using that as a crutch? Like, let me just sit here and rest and be with my thoughts or whatever. Like, I'm avoiding that, just rest and just be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to fill your belly up with water every 2 seconds. Like,
right.
you're fine. The other flip side of that, however, are my clients who do struggle with just drinking water. They don't, right? Those people, I'm like, all right, what can we habit stack on? And sometimes their workout is when they've got their fun water bottle or whatever. Yeah, right. Like, this is their workout water bottle, or they're on their bike or like whatever. And so that is when they're like remembering to drink their water and get their sips of water in. So like, you never know. Like, it's not a bad thing per se, but 100%, like, if you're loading up on all of the water and you're glug, like, nobody wants to work out like that. So like, yes, we don't recommend that. I recommend post-workout, sure, load up once you're done or whatever, like replenish your stores. Your body needs it. Your muscles need it. Our muscles hold on to a shit ton of water. Who knows? The guys at the gym could be like, who knows what they're taking that they need
they're
to
taking
like,
some stuff.
Right. So like, I don't know like enough about
this
whatever
gym,
they're trying
this
to,
gym
they're trying to pump. Like, yeah, like, I don't know what they're doing. But for some people it can be helpful to like habit stack those types of things. And like, for people that work for 7 hours or they're nurses and shit, and they literally do not drink their water bottle, that's like their time of day where they have access to their water bottle. So like, whatever. But yeah. No need to follow certain rules or certain ounces or gallon challenge or 105 ounces a day for 10 weeks. Like, it's drink when you feel like you need to wet your whistle, get in your hydration, just pay attention to your pee. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, last question is kind of like related to the first question that you answered.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't burpees good for golf? I feel like there's an underlying message here that needs to be said.
Well, it's funny when
burpees are such a thing. Like, they come up, it's like a hot topic.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like people pick up. We're in this society of like, when you say something like isn't good or like any kind of negativity towards something, that's all people hear.
Yes.
Right. Like, so one of my posts recently, I put like, I can make and I think my exact thing I said was, I can make the case that any exercise is good for golf except for burpees.
Yes.
And then people are like, well, why not burpees? I love the burpee. I'm like, do you really love burpees? But
literally said every other exercise is great for golf.
Yeah. Like, literally, you could have had exactly. Every single one. Come up with one. I literally said they're okay, except for burpees. So yeah, it's, I think it's all in the way it's programmed. Like, for one, like, I think golfers, like, you got to be burpees if you're doing them fast, like, can kind of crush your wrists a little bit. Like, you drop down like fast, like, know, and golf is really important to have like proper wrist angles to square the club face and not leave it open, and get the club on plane and all this kind of stuff. So I think they kind of bang up your wrists too much. I don't, and it's a plyometric type movement, right? Like, you're jumping up and down. But it's not a plyometric movement that's going to get you max force. And typically, you got to do a ton of them, whatever they're being scheduled in a program for, right? Like, what's the smallest amount of burpees you've ever seen in a workout?
Well, I think the point is that burpees are there to fatigue you. That's that is literally, like, I can pretty much say that's the point. It's never one burpee or two burpees. It's literally there to exhaust you between doing something else.
Yeah, like if you did like 2 like super explosive burpees, cool.
Yeah, maybe we can start doing that.
Yeah, but then you still got to. But then the dropping down like on your hands, I don't love for golf.
Totally.
So the same can be said about like high rep box jumps and stuff like that. Like, is the box jump bad? No, I don't think it's great to do 30 of them in one set for golf. Is it great for CrossFit? Yeah, because that's what you have to do in CrossFit.
Yes.
But yeah, I just so it's just not a movement like that is not something I would program for a golfer. Don't really see the need to do it unless you truly just want to get exhausted, and we could find a million other ways for you to get exhausted that wouldn't be as damaging, to your wrists and stuff like that as a burpee. Like, my favorite way to get people exhausted at the end of a workout, like, and some people in Lift Heavy Swing Fast have been like, hey, I need more. Like, and I'm like, you're crazy, but okay. Do a Tabata.
Yeah.
Do a grab a bike, do 10 or 20 seconds off, and then do the flip, 10 or 20 seconds, 10 or 20 seconds on, then 10 or 20 seconds off, however you want to do it. I like doing both. I mix them up. That's 4 minutes. That'll get you breathing pretty hard. That's a lot of work. And, it's going to make you explosive. It really challenged you cardiovascularly without like damaging you. And it was strictly endurance focused.
Yeah.
Or power endurance focused. But yeah, I don't love the burpees for golf. And I'm really fucking good at burpees. Like, remember that DECA competition we did? And I beat my guy. He got to the burpees section first, and it was the last section, and I passed him on those burpees. So, like, it's not because I'm a bitch and I can't do burpees. I can do burpees. I just don't think they're good for golfers.
They're not. Yeah, they're not. They're just not. I totally agree. That's kind of all I have to add. I mean, they can be fun. They are exhausting. They make you pretty sore, especially you don't do them regularly too. That's another thing. So then you're just my chest gets overly sore. And honestly, a lot of people do them wrong. And I know that we're not going to sit here and talk about people do them so wrong, so inefficiently. Mm-hmm. So it's not a push up. It's like drop your ass to the ground and like do the damn thing. But again, not a golf specific move. Not even close.
No.
Nobody needs to be doing that to themselves. Right.
Yeah.
It's perfect for Spartan and all those crazy like military style too, like training, whatever. But nah, nobody on the golf course needs to be doing burpees.
Right, and I think like like CrossFitters do it, and like it's in all those sports because it's like an easily like measured. Like you have to get all the way to the ground, you have to come all the way up. Like a lot of the other things that we could say are like could be taxing for you. You can't put into a competition because like they don't have like these strict standards of like all the way to the ground, all the way up.
Hands over your head.
Like a speed skater at the end of a workout. Like I'm cool with that. Like I think those are great.
I love those too.
Would that ever show up in a CrossFit or a Spartan race? No, because like there would be so many like, you'd have to jump this far and you have to do this and do that, like to make it count as an exercise. So like no, like golfers, no thanks.
Perfect. Hopefully that settles it for once and for all.
It won't, but I at least said it for now.
Now until next Q&A when it comes up in a different way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Get at us in the comments, guys. I feel like we hit some fiery topics today.
Some good stuff. A
balance of workout and nutrition focus, which is what we are all about. Is trying to bring it from all angles because it all matters. And yeah, anything else to wrap up with today?
No, check out all of our awesome follow along videos that we've been posting. They're a lot of fun. So if you want to do like a mobility or a workout, I literally walk you through exactly how to do it. I even show you a full set. So that way you can do it on your own very easily. That's kind of some of the new stuff we're putting out on YouTube. So check us out on YouTube, Cody Wescott Golf.
Yeah, we've been definitely, if you're not a member of our newsletter, I summarize our videos every week too. So like that's a good way to like learn about which videos we've recently posted. Obviously, subscribe on YouTube, but our email, typically I'm highlighting a couple of because we've been cranking them out. So it's like, it's hard to keep up. But I'm always posting about those too on the newsletter. So we're getting those out to y'all weekly.
Yep.
So. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much.
Awesome. Squat was very silent today, but he also wishes everyone a happy rest of their day, week, whatever. And we will talk to you soon.
Say bye, Squat.
Goodbye.